You no longer take them for granted anymore.
Yeah. And also seeing how much you have to do to yourself to get where you are, and looking back and realizing that at home, you don't do that, people do things for you. People change. But there's a different way of guiding, whereby I'm also letting you make a lot of decisions, and I'm coaching you to do that.
Right.
And we need to start that with our children. And that's what I think is the important part of this change of the curriculum.
Right.
But they should still incorporate outdoor education in it, so that kids have a whole week somewhere by themselves with instructors, where they are able to think. They are not reading. Right now, if I take 10 kids and go hiking, let's say in Loiter for 2 weeks, they are carrying their backpack. I teach them how to light a stove, how to cook for themselves. And then anything we see, if it's a tree, we talk about it. Then we talk about how we are getting together, so team.
Right.
After 2 weeks, that child, when they come back to school, they are ahead of that child
Who has just been sitting
The
in
amount they have learned
Right.
is more than they can learn in a classroom for 1 year.
Right.
And that has been proved right.
Right.
And
Right.
that's why United States, outdoor education, like you will go, if you're in high school, you can go and say, I'm not coming to school the next term. I'm going to Kenya. Outright. You're free. And you come back and you get credits more than the person who was in class.
Right.
And that is right. You learn so much.
Right,
Yeah.
right. I mean, evidently, not only do I come down with the accolade of having summited, which is a good thing, maybe that was the initial inspiration, but clearly I also come with many lessons down the road. I come with a different mindset, so to speak. So it's actually not just one goal I end up achieving. It looks like I achieve multiple goals.
Yes.
On any of those trips that I take.
What we usually say about goals, right? Even when we lead trips, not just guiding, but school trips where we are teaching, we ask people, what are your goals?
Yep.
And we write them down, and we make them write them down. If you revisit them after one week, you find that some people say, I wrote this, but that was not my goal. Now this is my goal. They are changing.
It keeps changing.
So you can write them,
Right.
but you actually end up achieving even more,
Much more.
than you thought.
Right.
And sometimes you don't realize. Then you realize even a year
Right,
later
right.
how much you achieved.
Right,
Yeah.
right. So you go and do the highest mountain in North America. I think that's the last experience you're sharing. It's called what?
Denali?
Denali. You were among the first black people to climb that one.
I was the first black African. summit,
Black African.
Denali. It's 20,320 feet in 1989.
Right.
Yeah.
Whoa.
And that I have done it twice.
Right,
That time I actually did it, I would say, the traditional way,
right,
whereby there's no support.
right,
We went with a group of 12.
right.
We were doing everything together. We had the instructors who were also training us, because you're walking on glacier.
Right,
We started at 1,500 feet
right.
to summit 20,320. And you have no support. We went for 36 days, but we planned to be there for 50 days.
Right.
So imagine all that food. So what we did is 2 months before, they had sent dogs with sleds to go and put some food about 10,000 feet,
Right.
and they buried it. So when we walked in, I remember I was carrying a pack that was 108 pounds, which is about 45 kilos, which is very
It's
heavy.
almost a bag of cement.
So, so we hiked all the way, got to the food that was touched. Don't forget, that's where all the gear that is advanced is. So you have your hiking boots,
Right.
you have your backpack, you have your tent, but you're grouped into like 4 people. So one tent for 4 people, and then you share one stove and all that. When you get there now, that's where the business starts. You get there, you establish camp, you're on snow. And a storm can come anytime. So you have to dig in. You can either dig in or make igloos
Right.
to sleep in case something
The storms
happens.
come, yeah.
When you feel now you're comfortable that even if a storm comes, you're fine, you take a load from the food that you brought. You take it like, let's say, like 6 kilometers because you're struggling on snow. Leave that stuff there. Come back and sleep. You take another load the following day, go there, come back and sleep. And then day 3, you move the whole camp to where you took your food. Whoa. So that one journey, you do it 3 times because there's nobody to help you carry that stuff.
You're on your own.
Yes. So we did that. You keep doing it until, but as you are eating also.
Right.
So it is
the burden is getting lighter.
Towards the end,
right.
you are doing
lighter.
twice.
Right.
And then towards, at the end, totally,
maybe
you
once.
do it once
right.
and come back
right.
because now you have left food for coming back.
Right.
Don't forget, you're going through different media, like snow,
right.
rock, there's crevices.
Right.
So let's look at our feet. I have a comfortable small shoe that I can use when I want to leave the tent to go pee or do something.
Right.
But I also have a pair of boots to hike in.
Right.
I also have snowshoes that are this big, still for the feet. You have crampons for when you have ice. It's still for the feet. Then you have the shoe that was Summit with. Used to call them bunny. So at the end of the day, you have 6 different pairs of things.
For that different terrains.
That was 1989. So
right.
we needed that much. For
right.
Everest, we
right.
didn't. We just. I used only three. Yeah, crampons, 4,000, and then above 8,000 boots. Yeah, because these days they are different, better things. So you're carrying a lot of gear. Then you have ropes, because
right.
when we are going on glacier, you are roped up. If you are 3, if you fall in, there's something we call self-arresting.
Right.
So I go down with my ice axe, and no matter what you do, I'm not going anywhere. So you have fallen, you hang there. The other person is doing the same. And then between us two, we communicate, and we get you out. It involves a lot of Z-drugs. Z-drug is like, what do you call it? When you take mechanical advantage. And you have all those things, the pulley system and all that, and you have to be sharp. You have to practice that to know. That time we did that, I only remember one person falling in, and not far, and we got them out. We were lucky. But, well, I can't call it luck, because the crevices were there. It's judgment. Because when you start doing it so much, you know when. You asked about going at night.
Right.
So that is in Alaska, and at night Alaska is still during the day. But because it's at night, it's cold. So you want to take advantage of that because then the snow is harder. So the chances of falling in.
Melting is low.
Yeah.
Right.
So you just make those decisions like that. But that was one expedition that I really enjoyed. And when we went back down, I was really happy. Obviously, you're smelling like a pig. But
having stayed a couple of days up there, man.
36 days.
36 days.
Yeah, but that's not. I've stayed for 80
longer.
days.
Yeah. I mean, Everest was longer than the 36. It was
that was 45 days.
45 days.
Yeah. But that one didn't seem like, to me, even 45 days for Everest didn't feel like anything.
Which is the hardest one that you've done?
Denali.
Denali was the hardest.
So that first time I did it, I enjoyed it, and I like it doing it that way.
Right.
In 2013,
right.
I was called to lead a team of the first African-American team to Denali.
Right.
And that time we did the normal route, where you fly in to 8,000. And then from there you start taking stuff. But this time you have sleds. You're pulling them yourself. And from base camp, which is 14,000, going to 17,000, where now you spring to the top. Very cold, very hard, because you, all those things you're doing by yourself, and you're carrying all the stuff by yourself. It's, I would say what I went through, the cold and all that, I would rather go back to Everest than Denali on that route.
It was that cold, it was that harsh.
Yes. It was harsh.
A lot of us in our minds must be.
And that is something that everybody should know, that you should not judge a mountain by what you did. You could go back there and it could be an animal that you never saw
Right.
because of the change of weather.
Right.
When we did Everest,
And it can change anytime.
anytime. When we did Everest, it was very good weather. So I can say that it wasn't challenging, but some people going other times
When the
could
weather
be
is different,
challenging. The
could be a
weather
bit more
is different.
challenging.
Yeah,
Right.
and even that time there are people who are challenged.
Right.
Yeah,
Right.
and never even summited.
Right.
Yep.
Right. One of the things that you have done very well is actually convert a passion for you into a commercial enterprise.
Mhm.
And this is what you live off. This is what you wake up to.
Yep.
And I just want to just get one or two thoughts around converting passion into enterprise. Many of us are passionate about different things, but possibly not able to convert it from a passion to something you can feed off. And effectively then it gets us back to the situation you're talking about earlier, where then, because I'm not able to convert my passion, my strength into an enterprise, then I continue doing something I possibly don't like, just because I wasn't able to monetize that thing that is a passion. And I just want you to walk through that journey of just being able to monetize it to the point that then you can say, yeah, those guys, they're charging you X, me, I'll charge you Y.
Yeah.
And yes, and guys still come to your Y as opposed to the cheaper X.
Well, you need to do things passionately, and then when you do them that way, and then you succeed, and you show people that you are able, and they like it.
Right.
For example, I get clients,
Right.
and a lot of times it's through word of mouth,
Right.
because somebody has experienced what I have.
So now they're
When
referring.
yes.
Right.
When I have students,
Right.
at the end, sometimes parents will call me and just say, "It's amazing.
Right.
We would like also to experience that. Can you take us to East Africa?" And
Our
we do
kids
that.
came back different.
Yes.
Right.
And I like that.
Right.
So one, it is actually accepting that's what you want to do and giving it all you have,
Right.
enjoying it,
Right.
finding a way to enjoy it,
Right.
and showing and motivating others,
Right.
so that then they recognize you, recognize you as the authority
In that space.
in that space.
Right.
You know, we see ministers working, and there are some who have performed so well
Right.
that if that minister comes and tells you it's this, you just believe them because of
Absolutely.
their success.
Can't even argue.
So that's where
Right.
I am at.
Right.
Like this client, I came out, I went to Mawen's
Right.
with and came back yesterday.
Right.
At the end of the day, she told me, KG, if it wasn't you, she has been guided by many people
Right.
all over the world. She has
Right.
climbed Everest, she
Right.
has done all this.
Right.
If it wasn't you and what you showed me through, I would not have gone past halfway.
Wow.
But I looked at your confidence. I saw you are composed. I knew we are doing something that is very challenging.
Right.
But it is you who made me past that point.
You
And
gave me
I
the
felt
strength.
the same.
Right.
I felt the same.
Right.
I could look back and judge and say, this person
Right.
knows what they are doing and they are listening to me.
Right.
And there's a lot of that. So I have confidence that I know things that other people have experienced, stuff that other people haven't. You know, we guide on Badian and all that. I guide on Badian, but I'm exposed to guiding on ice, guiding on snow than anybody else. I would say I would easily say I'm the best black African climber we have.
You know, actually, earlier, just before you actually converted it into hours. If it was the number of hours you spent in tents, I remember you converting it.
Yes.
You might just want to share that number
Well,
again.
right now I'm the most experienced national outdoor leadership instructor in the world.
Right.
I have
In the world.
In the world.
Right.
I have 900 weeks,
Right.
and the person behind me has 600,
Right.
and that converts into 17 years of sleeping in a tent.
Whoa.
Yep.
900 weeks.
Yes.
On.
And I'm still
on
going.
tents. And you're still going strong.
I'm thinking my goal, before my goal was 900. Now I want to go to 1,000. Let me see when I get
You've
there.
already done the 900.
Yes.
900 weeks. You was to convert that into years. That would be how many years?
17 years
So cumulatively, you've done about 17 years in
in
tents.
the tent. Yeah.
Typically, 17 years of your life continuously spent out in the wild
Yes.
and loving it.
I love it. People ask me how I do it, but I do, and it's not something I can share, but what I can say is I love it. And there's one thing I have, and I tell people, even when we go out, like let's say we go in Chile, whereby you get students for 1 month, you go to the mountain, you come down, not all the way because you meet others, you go back in. So you have 60 days.
Right.
And people are like, how can I go out for 60 days? And I tell them, you just have to like it. You have to be passionate about it. 2, there's one thing I say, and my family can hear this and they know.
Right.
Wherever I am, whenever I am in the field, the best way to work is to realize that my family is those people I am with in the field.
At that point
It's
in
not
time.
those people I left in Kenya.
Right.
No. At that point, they are not. Why? If I get into trouble or into problems, if I fall down, these are the people I depend on.
Right.
So I have to train them well,
Right.
so that they can react
Right.
if something happens to me.
So it's
To me,
also
I'm
in your
trained.
interest in that case.
Yes.
Right.
I have to train them well.
Right.
If I start thinking about my family that is not, and I've seen that. I've
Right.
had people who have gone out to the field and they cannot concentrate because they meet their girlfriend, their
Right.
boyfriend, their
Right.
partner,
Right.
or their family.
Right.
That doesn't come to me.
Right.
Nope, they are out there, they know what they're doing. You're worrying about something that is beyond your scope.
Right.
You cannot do anything.
Right.
Even if they called you and told you that I'm sick, what are you going to do?
Right.
My family is where I am, and that's how comfortable I've been. And I try to tell other people, but I don't expect everybody to be like me.
Right.
I don't know how I got there,
Right.
but I realize that that's the best way to actually pass that time so quickly.
Right.
Because now I have a goal. I want to do this. I want to summit that mountain. I'm not having a goal of, when I go home, I'll do this.
Right.
I don't.
At that point
I
in
don't
time,
even
this
plan.
is where your mind is.
Yeah.
Right.
If I plan anything when I'm out there, it's
Right.
usually actually coming up with new routes, thinking, how can I do Mount Kenya? Or a new, something I can sell. Like, what about if I sold 8 days on Mount Kenya? Where would we go? Stuff like that.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. And now that you've talked about family, man, I mean, tell us a bit about your family. And of course, you've introduced the question of when I'm out there, I'm out there. So where do you draw balances and all of that stuff? But first, tell us about your family.
What I can say is, I have a family of 4.
Right.
And
That's 4 children?
4 children.
Right.
And they are all in Kenya.
Right.
One of them is a pilot.
Right.
The others are still around.
Right.
And
How young is the youngest?
Youngest is 21.
21
She's
is-
in media, but she doesn't have a job yet.
Right. Right. Maybe we should bring her here to come and help us do
Yes.
that.
Actually, she really supported me.
Right.
There's somebody who supported me throughout the journey of Everest and even coming back. It was her.
She was with
Before
you.
we went, she would be there preparing me for interviews. Coming back, she did all that.
Right.
Even now, she's the one who reminds me, like, you're supposed to be here, you're supposed to be here,
Right,
stuff
right,
like that.
right.
She's be doing very
So your last born is 21.
21.
In the media space.
Yep.
Right.
Them growing up, I
Yep.
wasn't there.
Right.
Because, the longest I stayed in Kenya from 2000 to 2019, the longest
Continuous.
was 3 weeks. Usually would come for 2 weeks, then go maybe to Chile, stay for 6 months, come back 2 weeks, go to US, go to India. So I didn't see them much, but I
Right.
still, whenever I was here, I would spend a lot of time with them. About 20 years ago, no, actually 23 years ago, I started questioning myself about, I love traveling and I have friends who don't do it. So I introduced 2 families and say, every weekend before Christmas, we go somewhere. And the way I did it is, because I have camping here, I would take all my vehicles, tell them how much, we just share, take the families. I remember the first one we went to Mara.
Right.
We leave on a Friday, come back on Monday. The following year, it was 5 families.
Right.
We went on. At
Right.
one point, we were 70 people in Tanzania.
Wow.
And that has grown. And I have seen kids being born.
Right.
And now they are 15, 16.
Right.
And they still look at me like somebody, the person who plans trips for us.
You offered this for us.
Yes.
Right.
And it wasn't, we went on until 2019. But then during COVID and after, we haven't come back together.
Right.
But we will.
Right.
But also realizing that the kids have outgrown us.
Right.
So we cannot force them to.
Now they're running
come.
their own lives
So we are
differently.
actually thinking of now doing just the parents. And that's something I was proud about, that I was able to introduce the people
Several
around
families.
me
Right.
to go out. And at first there was resistance.
Right.
But then as soon as you take kids out, they are the ones who are, when is the next trip?
Yeah.
And you have to do it. And
Right.
they saw how much they
Right.
got out of
Right.
it.
You must have been to also have some fond memories for your own family in the process as you did this.
Yes,
Yeah.
and they were, and here's the beauty of it. We would go out, and if it is camping, all women and their children, you sit down. It is we who cook, the men. It is time for
It's
you to
daddy's
rest.
in the kitchen.
Yes.
Right.
And we would we still have cooks helping, but
Right.
they are the ones who would do everything. And everybody got into it.
Right.
And they would, because of that, there was a lot coming from the kids, from the wives.
Right.
When is the next trip?
Right.
Because
Right.
they really enjoyed it.
Right.
We
Right.
came together well. And I would encourage people to actually do that.
Must
There's
have
a
been
lot of
fun.
times you just sit and eat. But when you go out there, make it to your point. Like,
Right.
that's me. When we go out
Yep.
of the house,
Yep.
I'm the one in charge of food and all that.
Right.
And I love it.
Right.
So we meet a lot together
Yep.
when we can. Since COVID, we've been together a lot.
Right.
But they understand me.
Right.
They had a very hard time
Mm.
during Everest.
Mm.
Because when I decided I'm going to Everest, it's a mountain you go to, not come back or come back.
You,
and
may,
I was
you
ready.
may not. Yes.
Yeah,
Right.
I was ready. And I was telling him, remember one thing, I've been going to even more dangerous mountains than those.
Right.
I've been, to places where I thought, am I going to survive this one? It's only that you don't know. Now, this one, you are reading about it. You go to, you Google it, and all you see is dead bodies and all that.
And I'm told once they fall, that's it. man.
That's it.
Leave
So-
them where they are.
Yeah.
Keep going.
So my family.
But was that your
very-
experience? Did you find dead bodies as you
I
went
only
up?
found one.
Okay.
So my family, I would say that my going to Everest, one, most people thought they knew what I do, but they didn't. So they knew maybe 5%.
Right.
And by going to Everest, they knew now 15%.
Right.
Because I still don't think people do know what I do.
Right.
But they saw how exposed I am all the time. But I have gone through a career that I have trained myself and trained by other people and used other people who have mentored me to become a safe traveler.
Right.
And that is my main thing. I
Right.
go on an expedition, my first goal is safety.
Right.
I don't care about summiting. Summiting is one of the goals,
It's a plus.
but it's just the icing of the cream.
Right.
But going up to that summit you make to, not the real one, to wherever you go,
Right.
and coming back alive,
Right.
that is the key thing.
It's the only way you tell the story thereafter.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
the only way you tell the story. But man, KG, when you talk about 900 weeks, they talk about 10,000 hours makes you an outlier. Now, I wonder what 900 weeks then gets to make you.
She's a real person. I don't know.
Because now this is beyond an outlier.
Yeah.
It's beyond an outlier. And you love it. I really hope then that having done all these things, you're immortalizing them. Because then I'm sure there are people who find great passions around sports like this, who probably have a lot of information, gaps, knowledge, gaps. But I would imagine that then putting this in a book would be a brilliant idea for you just to do, so that then many people then can read from the world's best. Because the 900 weeks is 17 years on a tent.
Yeah.
It's not joke, it's not mean feat. And I must say congratulations, man.
Oh, thank you very much.
Congratulations. I mean, that's a big deal. When you think about it, it's a big deal. It's a massive deal.
It is a big deal, and actually, for many years, people have always asked me, are you going to write a book?
Right.
I'm passionate about cooking.
Yeah, even me, I
Like,
want to ask
one
that
of the
question.
things,
man.
one of the things like my students say is like, why can't you start KG Pizza? Because
Right.
one of my favorite things to do is to teach people how to make a pizza in the backcountry. I bake bread, even
Oh, really?
yeah, in my tent, not in
Really?
the tent, outside. You have everything you
And
need.
KG Pizza sounds like a good brand.
Oh,
man.
it is.
Yeah, it is a good brand.
Actually, if you look at my Instagram, you see me flipping them.
Right.
And they always ask when, and they have a lot of nice stories, short stories to entertain people.
And amazing ones, I would
And
imagine.
to show people, when are you going to write a book? And I say, I'm not a writer, because if I sit down and start writing,
Right.
I write well.
Right.
I'm not a good typist, and I've always thought about it, and then I was like, that's not me. But now I have realized that I could actually take advantage of my time in the field. I would do. Some people say it's work.
Yep.
I say my vacation.
Right.
My vacation in the field.
Right.
And in the evenings, have a dictaphone and somebody asked me a question and I say it.
Yep.
So after Everest, this person who came to my first presentation in Nairobi
Right.
followed me up and came with an idea, a book, and I was like, oh, I'm not going to, I don't have that time.
Doesn't sound like
and
me.
then I went to US, then they kept writing me.
Right.
And eventually I said, okay, can you give me a quotation and tell me how this would do? And I don't have money.
Yep.
And so she came up with a system. So we are hoping that by 12th of May, 2023, the first anniversary, my book, Journey to Everest, will be out and print. And right now,
Thank you, sir.
I have
I like the sound of that.
I have
Right.
a page
Right.
that I'm sending out to my friends
Right.
on email, on WhatsApp,
Yep.
and appealing to people who are wishers,
Yep.
whereby you can sign in
Yep.
as a company to be in the back cover.
Right.
We have 3 spaces.
Right.
We have another one. We have different tires.
Right.
But for individuals, there's a tire for $150
Right.
or 15,000 Kenyan shillings.
Right.
Whereby then you, when the book is out, you have 2 autographed by me,
Right.
hardcovers.
Right.
$100 will give you 2, whatever, soft covers.
Right.
And then if you are wisher, you want to give 1,000 shillings, whatever, it's open.
Right.
But you need to see that page. So far, I've had some good response, especially from companies.
Correct.
And I'm still waiting to hear what Northfield says,
Yep.
because I have approached them as
Excellent.
one of my sponsors.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Yeah, because man, I think this needs to be put in a book. I mean, I cannot begin to imagine what the experiences of 36 days of trekking would look like. Experiences of 45 days on Everest. And man, Everest is a whooping 8,848 meters
Yes,
above the sea level. And that's high.
it is.
Just to put it into context, Mount Kilimanjaro, which is the roof of Africa, is about 58, 98, somewhere thereabouts.
Yes.
So this is approximately another 3,000 on top of what Kilimanjaro is.
At least, yeah, almost 4,000 feet. Above.
Almost 4,000.
4 kilometers.
Absolutely, that's massive.
Yes.
That's massive. Already, man, I did Kilimanjaro, and already by the time you're summiting, you can almost feel the gas, the air is almost becoming a challenge. But as you said, man, when you get to the top and you see sunrise from just that vantage, man, it is just, it's out of this world.
Yeah.
It's absolutely out of this world. In fact, I saw the sun coming from underneath to
Yes.
get to where the skies is, and then breaks the skies, and just, it's just
amazing.
a phenomenal.
It is amazing.
Such a beautiful. And so, I mean, just coming back to the book, there definitely must be many stories, and there must be many lessons, and there must be many experiences that I think will be of a lot of value. And we can't wait for May for the book to get out, man.
Yeah, I can't wait too, but I felt that I am not doing a good service to the people who are looking unto me.
Right.
You know, Kenyans, East
Right.
Africans,
Right.
the world at large,
Right.
without sharing what I have done, the journey I have gone through.
Absolutely.
And that, I think, will be the beginning.
Right.
I still plan to come up with a children's book,
Right.
just stories,
Right.
and maybe a picture book
Perfect.
at some point.
That would be
And
great.
I hope that will be educative to people. My main goal, and I say this because when I came back from Everest, not that I expected it, I'm a person who less cares about publicity
Right.
and all that.
Right.
Actually, sometimes it's I don't really like it. Like
You
when
just
I
wanna get
left
the job done.
to go to US in
Right.
June, that was the first time I got into the plane and said, "Hallelujah, I've left this country." Not because I hated it, just because I was being flooded
Right.
by interviews, by
Right.
people, by
Right.
friends,
Right.
and I know why, and I need to appreciate it. But sometimes it can be overwhelming.
Right.
So I'm hoping that having met, I did not, people say that I wasn't received the way I should have been
Right.
as the first
the hero.
black Kenyan
Right.
or citizen
Right.
of Kenya to summit Everest.
Right.
By the way, there are other two Kenyans who have summited, but
Since
they are
then?
residents.
Right.
Residents.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, one
Okay.
is from UK, the
Yeah.
other one is from US.
Right.
Actually, the one from US just came last year,
Right.
and I know them.
Right.
And so as that,
Yours you did in May 2022, right?
yes.
Right. Okay.
And as that, people didn't feel like I was received by the government.
Because it's a big deal.
Yes, but that was during campaign.
Right.
But when I came back, the governor of Nyeri,
Right. Governor Mutahi.
said I need to look for this guy.
Right.
He had even tried
Right.
that time, but I didn't have time.
Right.
Because again, I'm not going to sacrifice an expedition
Right.
to go to State House or wherever.
Right.
So we had to work out when I don't have an expedition.
Yes.
And he did a good honor
Yep.
for me.
Right.
It was the first hero honored in Nyeri.
Right.
And they said they're starting that. It would
Right.
be a norm.
Right.
They need to honor more people.
Right.
I was given ambassadorship for tourism for Nyeri.
Right.
I'm looking at a point whereby I'll get to that level of presidency.
And
level.
you need to. You
When
need
I
to.
do,
Yep.
my goal is not achieved because what I want to say is one, mountaineering need to be considered by the Ministry of Culture as a sport. Right
Right.
now it is not.
Right.
In 1991, when I went to represent Africa on a climb in Switzerland, when I reached out to the ministry, the answer I got is we cannot help, mountaineering is not a sport,
Right.
which is not fair. Because I have brought so many people to Mount Kenya because of my fame and my climbs and all that.
From
And I
all
feel
around the
I'm
world.
I'm
Right.
ambassador for that. I'm
Right.
an honorary warden, by the way.
Right.
KWS honored me with that.
Right.
Not because of efforts.
Right.
I've done it.
Right.
So I feel like that should happen.
Right.
I can give you cases of, when I took the flag of Kenya, 50 years of independence. I came from Chile. I paid for my own ticket to come and do that for the country. And I went back. Nobody dared ask me whether they can pay my ticket back,
Right.
up to now.
Right.
But
Right.
I did it for my country,
Right.
and I didn't care whether I would be famous.
Out of the
or not.
sense of patriotism.
Yeah.
Right.
In 1994, I became the first black African to summit the highest mountain in southern hemisphere, Aconcagua, 22,820 feet. Nobody cared. But that doesn't pull me down. But my goal is
And
to
you're yet
actually-
about to do another one because you're taking an all-females black team.
Yes. My goal is for Kenya to recognize mountaineering and the government to support it.
Right.
And also bring in money so that we can train guides. And don't let them say that, we don't have trainers. I've seen them get trainers from Austria. We are here. I'm here. I know other people who I can train. I trained Kilimanjaro guides. Why not? I have trained the rescue team of Mount Kenya. I've trained Rwenzori. And we can still continue with that.
Right.
Yes. This year, I was supposed to lead a team of all Kenyan women to Everest who are passionate, and they are still are, and I believe they can do it. But sometimes you have to look at the reality of things. When they came up with that idea last year when I came, I said, I think that's too quick. Why don't we do 2024? They said, no, we are ready. I said, do you know how long our expedition took? We started in 2019. 2020, that's when I was given the first call. Took 2020, 2021, we went 2022. Main reason, reaching out, being sponsored, $100,000 per person, which is 10 million Kenya shillings.
Per person.
How much are you going to raise that? For Kenyans, most likely it would be like 7 million. And then eventually, I went with them to Mount Kenya and I said, my clear conscience and wanting to lead you says, and I have noticed, 1, 6 months you cannot get that money. 2, you're not ready. I said that. And I'm ready to continue training you. And by the way,
Yep.
when I came back from Everest, I realized that most of the mountaineers we have, people who are interested, people who reached out to me, the groups that go out every weekend, I would say 80% are women. Men to Kochini. Yeah, seriously.
Lazima tuchukue game higher.
Yes, men to
Yeah,
Kochini.
we must do better.
Women are doing that more.
Wow.
You find them leaving their kids out there and going for a weekend.
Right.
By doing that,
Right.
that kid will learn. My mom went to Kilimanjaro.
Right.
My mom went to. That's what they want to do
Absolutely.
also.
And they get inspired.
Yeah. So
They get absolutely
men, we need
inspired.
to just not go out for nyamachoma on
Yeah,
weekends.
we must do more than that.
And you don't need 8 days
Right.
to go out. You
Right.
don't need 10 days.
Right.
You don't need 3 days.
Right.
Just start with 1.
Yep.
Go to Gong, come
Yep.
back.
Yep.
And if you can't make it to Gong, go to Karura.
Right.
If you can't, walk to town and come back.
Right.
That is.
It's a great start.
It's
It's
a
a
good
great start. And then we can build it from there.
Yep.
You know, KG, as we bring this to a close, man, I'm almost asking myself, how old is KG again?
KG is about, on 3rd March, I'll turn 63. I'm 62. And I would say that a few years ago, I was thinking about retiring. And I was like, retiring to go where? This is where I do.
Right.
And this is where I see myself.
Right.
And that's where I feel comfortable being.
Right.
So I'll continue doing mountains.
You'll keep it
I'm
going.
inspiring people.
Right.
Right now, the project I have
Yep.
is last year while I was on Everest.
Right.
Yeah, I have a few things.
Right.
I was approached in 2020 by Narumoro Children's Home,
Right.
which used to be supported by Italians.
Right.
And because of COVID, that could not happen.
Right.
So they started thinking, what can we do something here that can bring money? So they approached me, and I came up with an idea, and I presented it to them, and I helped them. I walked them through. But I said, unfortunately, when we are doing it, I will not be there or be in Everest. And they say, no, how can we do it? I said, don't worry, I have everything in place. And before I went for Everest, I left everything in place. We sent out flyers. They raised 1.5 million. That was last year. This year, they are doing it on June 3rd. I'm still out. There will be an event, one-day event, hike from Narumoro to Med Station 10,000 and come back. The payment is 2,500. So the 2,000 goes straight to the home. The 500 is for your lunch. KWS is giving us free entry. And then there are 4 other events. So that is one day. There's a 2 days event. You can go overnight in Shipton. There's 3 days event. You can go to Point Lenana. There's 4 days event. And me, I already have a group that will take 5 days.
Right.
And that group, I know will donate some money because there's registration fee.
Right.
I want that to be something that succeeds, that goes like a Rhino Church, something like that.
Right.
Not for my name.
Right.
But
for those children out there.
Yeah, for those children and also for people, because we are also doing it for, what are we calling it? We are doing it for people to realize that they need that exercise for their body, for their health.
Right.
Yeah, we are doing it.
It's actually multiple benefits. The children benefits. We can put some smiles on the children.
Yep.
It's for our own fitness. We can then build the sport as well. And I think there are many fronts from which then this becomes a win.
Yep.
And I must thank you for remembering also such communities. And it's not just about succeeding alone, but also then remembering the community.
Yeah.
And also then being able to then invest in that particular community.
When we were growing up, there is food. If somebody walks in, we move away. They eat first. We share. I remember, every village has somebody insane. And we had many in our area.
Right.
And they happened to know my mom.
Right.
And that's where they would come to eat.
Right.
Anytime.
Right.
They would knock anytime. And
Right.
you always have food.
Something for them to eat.
So I usually tell people to start sharing.
Right.
And I usually tell people I don't have much.
Right.
But the little I have,
You will give.
I like
You're
sharing.
willing to give.
Yes.
Okay, G, man. What an inspiration you are.
Thank you. Thank you.
That's been absolutely inspiring. And I must say, we are very honored on the Goldmine Show just to host you
Thank you.
and just to glean from your journey. This has been 44 years of doing this and going strong. And most likely some of you folks watching and saying, oh, I am 57, I am 62. Well, okay, G, 62 and counting, and you can tell he's planning to take a team to the Everest next year. He's probably going to be on your 63rd year.
Yes.
And so he's not even about to
64.
stop, man.
It will be 64.
It will be on the 64th, man, and still going strong, man. I want to wish you well, sir.
Thank you
And
very
I just
much.
want to say thank you so much for finding time. What an inspiration, and looking forward. I hope I'll get a copy of the book. We'll have to then get that book out.
Yeah.
And I just want to say congratulations. You're truly an inspiration. Keep doing what you're doing. So glad to then connect with someone who found their passion and converted it into greater than just a passion and doing a whole lot more. You're an inspiration.
Thank you very much.
And I can't say thank you enough for just coming through.
Thank you for hosting me.
Yeah,
I
thank
really
you,
appreciate
man.
it, and I
Thank
hope it reaches out to more people.
We will push it out there. We will push it out there. Yeah. Thank you, man. Folks, man, I hope you've been inspired and I hope you've been challenged, man. Look, sometimes we give ourselves excuses and we tell ourselves why we cannot. And maybe there's someone watching this that has said to yourself enough reasons of why you cannot. But I want you to, for a moment, just to change the narrative and begin to also challenge that paradigm and ask yourself, and why can't I? And why can't I? Because you can do a whole lot more sometimes than you even imagine. KG just challenged us and reminded us out in the mountains. People go with a goal of just summiting, but they come back with a different mindset, with a different perspective, greater health, greater challenge, and different perspectives, fortitudes built and harnessed, and so much, much more. For the longest sometimes, the question has been, can I? And I want us to change it and ask ourselves, and why not? And why not? If at 62 kg still planning for another Everest, to take an all Kenyan women to summit, then I wonder what you're planning about. It's about time to dream bigger, to believe bigger, to believe bolder, and to actually do greater. And that's why we keep talking about the gold mine, because you are a gold mine. You're capable for much more sometimes than you think you can. And we challenge and encourage you. Go all the way out, man. If you need to go to the mountain where there is no limit, just go all the way, man, and challenge yourself. Draw a new beginning. Start afresh and do it big. And I can tell you, you'll be amazed at the greatness as a gold mine you truly are. Well, I want to thank you for making the time to watch us. I hope KG's journey inspires you. Follow him on all his social media pages, and man, let him keep inspiring you. And even right here, we invite you. Follow us on the Goldmine Show on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, TikTok, and everywhere else. But more importantly, keep sharing this conversation. And above all, don't you ever forget that you are a gold mine. You are greatness. You're capable of so much more than you ever thought you are. Until next time, God bless you. Keep working the greatness that you are. Don't quit on you. Keep working on you. Bless you, and see you next time.